behalf of the founders, the admin team, and moderators of Flippin Boys Gymnastics Group, I just wanted to say a big hello and thank you. We're so grateful you're here. Our group started with a couple of mom friends from Seattle and the Atlanta area. Our boys were in compulsory boys gymnastics, and we realized how little information and community there was for us parents in this niche sport. So we're all trying to figure out skills, levels, scoring, injuries, step-ins, pull-up pans, the realities of a college path even, and we were doing it mostly alone. And so this space was created to change that. And our group's purpose is simple: build community among boy gym parents, learn about the sport and how the system works, support our sons so that they can chase their goals while staying safe, healthy, and happy. Over time, about 7 or more or so years now, almost 8, our little parent group has grown to include coaches, gym owners, judges, and parents of college and elite athletes even. Some of the boys whose parents joined us early on have gone on to GymAct, D1, D3, and even the Olympics and Worlds. And by the way, GymAct was barely a thing when we first started this group, and now it's a big deal. Our athletes' journeys remind us what's possible, but this group is just as much for the level 3 parent as it is for the future Olympians parent. Most of all, this group is here for you as a parent. We try to keep our eye out for salesy posts, marketing posts, spam, AI, and fundraising posts, because men's gymnastics can be confusing enough and ever-changing, and our community is small. We learn from those who've gone before us and from each other, just like we're doing today with our presenter, Jeffrey Zach, a former college level gymnast himself and now a judge and a state chairman for Pennsylvania men's gymnastics. Jeffrey came up with the idea for this parent webinar because he understands exactly what we need. And if any of you ever have any ideas for future topics or presentations that would help our community, please let us know. We want this space to reflect the questions and concerns you're really facing. So now the chat room is open. Please put your questions in the chat and Jeffrey will address them at the end or throughout. And so now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Jeffrey Zach.
Thank you, Jerry Ann. I'm going to try to see if I can do this. You guys can all see my screen, and I can't see the chat, so if you can just chime in and if there's any questions, I'll go from there. Um, I thought this would be a great topic to talk about because we are just about to start um, our season. In Pennsylvania, at least, we have a competition this weekend. And I know um, some parents just don't know what's going on. You're watching your son out there, and you go, "What the heck did that? How did he score that?" And you have no idea what is going on. Um, so my goal as a judge, as a state chair, as someone who loves gymnastics, is to educate. Um, but some people go, what qualifications do you have to talk about this? And I think I have a pretty decent resume of knowledge. I competed. Let me start from the beginning. I started gymnastics from the time I could walk. My dad was a coach. He still is a coach. He is a judge as well. So I started mom and me classes and
Actually, not completely liquid jet.
Started mom and me classes. Started competing by the time I was 6 until I went to Temple University. I competed on their Division I team from 2007 to 2012. After that, I knew I didn't want to coach. Just wasn't my cup of tea. So I said I wanted to still stay in it. I wanted to be a judge. Started judging, and I've been a nationally certified judge from 2012 until 2022. Then I decided, after having many great mentors, that I wanted to try to get my FIG certification, which is the highest certification we can have as a judge. Did that, passed that the first cycle, and then just passed it just recently this year. So I'm in my second cycle as a FIG certified judge. I've judged over about 120 competitions in my time as a judge, from local competitions, inter squads, states, regionals, invitationals. I judged the first Eastern National Championships, ECAC Championships, and NCAA Championships. And my favorite competition was I got a chance to go over to Sweden with one of our club teams. I was the D2 judge on floor at the one of the competitions in Sweden, and had 13 countries represented there, and it was just an awesome experience. Um, I'm also the state chairman for Pennsylvania Men's Gymnastics. This is my seventh season. I am also on the regional board for Region 6. Um, my normal 9 to 5 is I'm a certified and licensed athletic trainer. I work for our sports orthopedic surgeon. And probably my favorite thing is that I am married to my wife, Casey, and I have just my 1-year-old daughter who just turned 1 last week. So they're awesome. Men's gymnastics, as Jerry Ann said, we have, um, you know, not that many if you compare them to the women, but I stole this from one of our uh, gym coaches who presented at my camp this year. In USA Gymnastics, we have about 12,000 men's members across 700 clubs in the United States. There's 15 Division 1 and 3 teams with about 260 gymnasts, 16 gym act teams with about 275 gymnasts, and over 50 teams for the NIGC with about 400 gymnasts in there. So you can see, we go from 12,000 members to, less than 1,000 competing post high school. So, they're trying their best, and, whatever they want to go to NCAA's level, if they want to go to, gym act and the IGC, there is opportunities available for them. Real quick, I'm just going to do a quick brag about my state of Pennsylvania. If you follow us on Instagram, please do. It's PA_men's gymnastics. I try to be as best I can with social media because I want to get our information out there and showcase, the boys we have in the state. We have 28 clubs across Pennsylvania, 520 boys, the highest number I've had since I've been the state chairman. And I've had them go on to compete in college levels, at Penn State, Oklahoma, Michigan, Navy Academy, Air Force, Nebraska, Greenville, Springfield, Temple, Minnesota, Arizona State, and that's not including all the kids who go off to NEIGC who I don't know about, but yeah, I see them post, online their competitions. So, you know, my little quick brag of what we're doing here in Pennsylvania. Now, this is why you all came. What do you guys need to know as parents? And it's pretty simple. I know we're lucky to have Jarrett Pogue from Texas here. He's someone who I look up to as a state chairman because he knows this probably better than I do, but it's complicated, and it's okay whether you're a first year level 3 parent or your son's been competing for 12 years and he's a level 10 and you have no idea what's going on. It's okay. Real quick, we're not going to spend too much time. I want to have a lot of time for questions if needed. Um, but real quick, if you don't know, compulsory routines, they're determined by USAG and the Men's Development Program Committee. They go from level 3 to 6. Level 3s can compete in either Division 1 or Division 2. Division 1, they're allowed to do bonuses where they can have a maximum score of a 10.0. Division 2, they're not quite there yet. They don't have the harder skills. They're not allowed to do bonuses. The highest score they can get is a 9.0. In previous years, a judge, if that kid made me say, wow, that was really good in certain parts of the routine, I could give a bonus for that. They got rid of it to make the judging a little easier, a little faster. You know, depends on who you ask. And a Division 1 gymnast can also earn a 10th bonus for sticking their dismount. Fun fact, the fastest I've ever judged a routine, I was timed at our regional championships. The kid landed on floor. I had the next kid started in about 6 seconds. Um, so I'm doing a lot of math in my head on the fly, and yeah, my hand cramped up pretty bad after that. Um, so that's the bare bones, you know, I'm not going into much details of it. Oh, level 6 is the one oddball. Level 6 is hard. I'll be completely honest with you, it's the hardest level, I think, in the compulsories and sometimes even optionals. You can compete in the Division One, which is just the regular rules, like the level 3 through 5, and then you have the Future Stars, the Junior Elite group, that have their own routines, own rules. The judges have been told to be very tough on these because these are the guys who are going to try to go to the elite route and make those junior national teams and national teams and on from there. So very hard routines to judge because they're so picky with what we want to see from them. Just a little breakdown for the table. So you see your kid do this perfect routine. You at least you think it's a perfect routine. Um, the first thing I'm starting to do as soon as they raise their hand and start their routine is I'm looking for errors, whether it's a small error, medium, large. If they fall, they get spotted when they're not supposed to be. So you take that 10.0 or that 9.0, and then I start deducting from there. And I can take one for compulsories. Compulsories and optionals are different, which makes it even that much more challenging. Um, Compulsory deductions can go from 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, and 5/10. And this is whether your arms are bent, your toes aren't pointed, your knees bent, your knees come apart. You take a small step on your landing, you take a big step on your landing, you fall. This is the first set of deductions that we as judges can take. And this is completely subjective. What one judge sees as a small deduction, another might see as a medium deduction. And what a judge is looking for can vary from judge to judge, from state to state, region to region. But what the NGJA, which is our governing body, is trying to do is to try to give us very good um, education criteria. That way we are pretty much streamlined across the country. And at the end of the PowerPoint, I'll kind of show you what our education looks like. Um, if your son has an earring, necklace, bracelet, whatever it is, it either has to be taken off or, excuse me, or an earring can have like a band-aid over it, piece of tape. Um, if not, it's a 2/10 deduction. And while we can't deduct for having hair in the face, we recommend for safety that you have it up with a sweatband, pulled back. That way, it's not in your eyes and it causes uh, a safety hazard. So it's another set of deductions we look for. Then we go to more deductions. It's very easy for us as judges to find deductions because there's so many things that we look for. Whether on rings you take an extra swing, P-bars just an extra swing, as you see here. Um if it's done so poorly that we can't recognize it, um if it's a part that's not in the kit, your level 3 forgets the routine completely and does something that he was doing at home, it's a deduction. If a level Division 2 kid does one of the bonuses because his coach is having work in practice, he can get deducted for it unless it's specifically noted that they're allowed to do it. And if they do the routine in the wrong order, we can take a deduction, one time in the routine. So you can see it's very easy for us to be writing on our paper and taking away from that perfect score. And then we gave him more deductions. These are deductions that can happen, aren't as common. Stepping over line obviously is common on floor and vault. If you go over with 1 foot or one hand, that's a 10th. If both feet go over the line, 2/10.
It isn't bad. Henry's in the shower.
If the if I've seen a kid hit a pommel horse, hit something, scream because they didn't like how to do it, they can be deducted for behavior. I've taken deductions for coaches' behavior. If there's a spotter for compulsory guys that they say they need to be there and they you know, leave for whatever reason, a deduction. The spotter comes onto the floor, or for some reason they're spotting pommel horse, another deduction that we can continue to take. So very easy to be deducted, very hard to get points. This one, for example, the best one I like to say is your gymnast on floor is going to do a round off back handspring, back tuck. They can't do two back handsprings, but they can do one. They go round off, back handspring, back tuck. They didn't complete that last part, so they partially did it. They didn't completely leave it out, so we can take deductions from that. And then so we'll come back for any other questions you have about that. But now we have optionals. So we forget all the rules that we had for compulsories. And you get to level 7, 8, 9, and 10, and we have a whole new set of rules that we need to work on and remember, and they become tougher. This slide I stole from our judges course a couple weeks ago, but it explains it pretty well. Except for level 7, you take your 7 best skills and your dismount, you add up their difficulty, you get you add up the element groups, and that is how we come up with the start value. And you have to have a minimum of 6 skills before you get deducted. As you can see in this table over here, if a level 10 gymnast does 5 skills, we can take 3 points off their start value. 7, 8, 9, we understand it's a little harder sometimes. We only take 1 point off, and then you can see the deductions go from there. Obviously, kid gets hurt, you know, at NCAAs, we had a guy on his first pass, blow out his ankle. He did 1 skill. So he still scored like, a 3 or 4, but we took a big neutral deduction because he only had 1 counting skill. And then we also change up the deductions that we have. In compulsories, it was 1, 2, 3, 5. For optionals, we take for a small error 1/10, medium 3/10, a large error is 5/10. You fall, you're losing a whole point. So you can see if your son is, level 10 and he's throwing all these big skills, say on floor or on high bar, he's trying all these big releases and he falls 3 times. Well, did he get credit for the skill 1? Probably not. And he fell 3 times. So he's losing minimum 3 points right off the bat of the skill. So the deductions add up really, really fast. And then we have to know in the junior program, they said some of these kids can't do all skills to get to that minimum threshold. So we're going to make these skills, they're called junior developmental A's on each event. That count is basically, you can call it a placeholder. They get a value of 1/10, but they don't count for any element groups. So it lets the kids kind of get into that 7 to 8 skills, so they don't meet that neutral deduction. And each event is different. So as a judge, you're going to prepare for your event and remember, okay, on floor, if the kid does a cartwheel, he's going to get an A for it, but no other credit. And you're going to study this throughout, your preparation for a competition. So I'm going to go real fast just how we come up with a start value for a couple of the levels for optionals. If you don't know, each event has 4 element groups. And from each of those element groups, a gymnast is allowed to do no more than 4 skills. And this is different from the last quadrennium. And if you asked me last year to do this presentation, I would have been completely lost because it was a lot that got changed after the Olympics. But basically, if they do level 10 has to do any group 1 skill, as long as it's an A value skill, they get 5/10. Groups 2 and 3, depending on the event, they have to do a D value skill or higher to get full credit. If they do an A, B, or C, they get partial credit. And Group 4, which is the dismount, will be changing as of January 1st. But at this time, if they do say an E value dismount, they'll get 5/10. Unfortunately, there had been some significant injuries, and I believe even someone died. Um, that the FIG said we're going to cap it at no more than 5/10. So the highest dismount you'll get credit for is an E dismount. You can't do an F for 6/10, an H, an I, or even a J if there is a J value dismount on your event. Because you could technically, if it was a J value skill, you get a point for your dismount. And it just they said it was too dangerous and people were having way too many significant injuries, catastrophic injuries from that. But that will change as of January 1st. Level 9, you see, is a little different. Again, you still get four skills per element group. Again, you have an A value skill for group 1, you automatically get 5/10. But here they kind of said, hey, level 9, we're gonna, instead of being a D skill, we're gonna only need you to do a C skill to get full credit. And A and B will get partial credit. And if you think about as a judge, you are doing a level 10 and 9 meet combined. The coach doesn't tell you, hey, this kid, we've done level 9s, we're going to level 10s, and you're going to mess up the element groups. You think you're going to judge level 9 as level 10, you think it needs a D value, and he needs a C. You've you're going to get yourself a coach coming up to you and saying, hey, what was that start value? And then you're going to get, crap, I need to go back and change that start value, which as a judge, I don't want any coaches coming up to me asking my start values. I want to be on point and not have them question me. If your brain hurts, good. Because now we go to level 7. I skipped over level 8 because that's a whole different animal. Level 7 is, the kids who they're coming up, they're not just there yet. They might not be old enough to be a level 9 or 10. They're only counting 6 skills. They only have to count 3 certain element groups, and they have just to do an A to kind of fulfill the element group. So this was the equivalent to the JD levels in the previous years. If you've been around for that, level 7 and JD are very much similar. Level 8, probably one of the this is the hardest event to judge or level to judge because they have their own set of rules. And um, you do not want me judging level 8 pommel horse because they have their own tables that you need to know. And I give 100% credit to the judges who I have in this area who can judge level 8 pommel horse. They should get extra money as far as I'm concerned because it's the hardest event to know what the heck's going on. But as you can see here, level 8, they have their own specific um, element groups that they have to fulfill. And it might be similar to the other ones, but every now and then they'll change it up just to make it a little easier, make it so the guys can actually do what they're able to do and not, have too much deductions. And so I come back to these at any time when we have some questions. And when you want your brain to hurt even more, they can all get stick bonuses. A level 9 has to do a C dismount. Level 8 has to do a B dismount. Level 7 just has to do what they can call a Fig A, which just means it's in the Fig code of points. It's not one of those specific JO skills that they're allowed to do. And then they're allowed to get a stick bonus on vault as long as they do a salto, which is also known as a flip, like a souk, a cause, a front handspring front, you know. And even in the developmental program, they can get a stick bonus on pommel horse if they go on to NCAA or compete internationally for, Team USA. No bonus on pommel horse. It'd be kind of funny to see at World Championships, Steven Nedorosik not sticking a pommel horse dismount. It just is kind of like what we think is going to happen. But just because you stick a landing doesn't mean you can't get deductions. As long as the guys don't lift their heels off, they get their credit for their stick. But say they're waving their arms all around trying to catch their balances, they're moving all over, hips are going crazy, their legs are too far apart, they're basically stuck in a squat. We can take deductions for that as well. um, these next few slides, I'm not going to this. The only one I want you to, reason why I put these slides in was to show you the difference between 4 different levels and the knowledge that we had to have as judges. This is level 10. This is the skills they get credit for. This is the difficulty score over here. 3.8. This is level 9. There's an exception. Same exact routine, but you see the start value is much higher. It's a 4.3. Again, the exact same routine for level 8, and they have a 4.0 start value. And then if this level 7 somehow is doing this, be all credit to them. The start value is again different here. I didn't put the NCAA routine on here, but as a judge, you can see how we have to differentiate. We have 4 of the same exact routines over 4 different levels and 4 different start values because each of the rules is different based on the level. So when there is a competition with, say, a level 10, 9, 8 session, a judge has to go between 3 different rules, and it's very difficult for us to get into a rhythm. And it's even more difficult to say you're working with a 2-judge panel and you're trying to be within a range of scores when you have so many different rules that we have to follow. And what, like I said before we started the call, is if I go into a gym and do a mock meet or an inner squad, and I'm trying to do all 6 events, 5 events, usually I don't do vault, is I tell the parents and the coaches, hey, look, my score is going to be off maybe on these events by 3 to 5 tenths, but you can't expect me to know level 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 on every single event when we go through it in 2 or 3 hours. I'm going to be off a little bit, and that's okay. I'm going to stop my share real fast so I can see the chat. I want to open it up to questions because I know this is why you're all here, because you want to ask questions and learn more about gymnastics. So let me go to the chat here. Let's see what do we have? Why don't the juniors? This is from Shelly. Why don't juniors use the same deductions as the FIG code? Shelly, I'm assuming you are talking about the compulsory guys or just the junior FIG?
Shelly, you want to come off mute and ask the question because you did have a follow-up as well.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a parent. I'm just a fan that wants to learn more about judging. And it just seems there's so many different rules. I mean, it's just so many different rules. It seems so confusing. I mean, just in general, are there so many different rules?
I don't know if I have a good answer for that. I mean, if I'm judging just as hard as a 6-year-old who's his first time competing versus an 18-year-old who is going off to Stanford and is on the junior national team, you know, it's completely different. And um, it's it's I don't have a good answer. It's difficult. Jarrett, I know I would love for your feedback. I think you could give a good explanation onto this.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. So the reason there's so many different rules is because it's developmental. It is it used to be called the junior program, junior Olympic program. Now it's the developmental program. So when we sit down to write these rules and to think about everything, we're thinking about the development of the athletes and where they are, what their age is, how they're moving up. And believe me, I've heard all the complaints from all the judges about why don't we just follow the FIG rules? It's like, and I tell them all the same thing. It's like, because this is developmental. Our goal for the goal of the men's development program committee, which I'm on when we look over these rules, is okay, how can we get these guys to progress in gymnastics correctly? And give them some ideas. For instance, like, why are there so many exceptions? Why are there skills that we take less deductions on or to give a higher value to? It's because we're trying to incentivize those athletes do those um, to do those harder skills and not get penalized so much within in the deductions. Because for a long time in our country, I'm sure you guys, if you guys are fans and watch the Olympics in Tokyo, the narrative was, hey, we're the U.S. team is 5 points behind stepping onto the floor because we just don't have the difficulty. Well, that starts in the development program because these guys haven't developed the difficulty at this younger age because it was too hard. They got too many deductions, then they just quit doing it. So a lot of the rules that we came up with, and there's a lot of exceptions, believe me. As Jeffrey said, there's a lot when you're judging. There's a lot of exceptions, a lot of things you have to remember, and I'm sure Jeffrey has very good cheat sheets that he has there in front of him when
I
he's judging routines.
I can actually bring up those cheat sheets that makes it faster for me. I would love to show the
Yeah.
parents kind of how I keep it going. But if you guys don't know, Jarrett is, like I said, we're very lucky to have him on this call because he is the one who helped write these rules. If you look at the manual, his name is right there. So he's probably, we are very lucky to be able to have him on this because he can answer these questions that you might have that you might not be able to ask otherwise.
Well, and I think the original question was like why when she asked why the rules were different. I'm assuming she meant between the compulsory and the optionals, and
Yes.
that's a very simple one. It's because the compulsory start from a 10, so the 10 is the highest they can get. So we didn't want to deduct 135 and a point from a 10-0 scale because then you'd have a lot of scores in the sixes and sevens. So that's why we went back to the 1, 2, 3, 5 for those compulsory routines. So that was the main reason why we did that.
Yeah. And if you guys ever come to a competition in Pennsylvania, we have several big ones. And I'm not all about giving the kids, twos or threes. I like them to have fun and it's important for them to have fun. So if you ever see me come up with like a 4 or 4 5, it's like kind of my mercy score. I refuse to go lower than that. And I kind of tell the coach, hey, you owe me next time. And I think they appreciate that because they don't want the kids upset either. They want them to be having fun. Let me go through the questions here. Looks like Anne said 4D2 has a poor back handspring, should be omitted. That is a question for the coach. Are you going to lose more than a point on the skill versus building the young man's confidence? It's up to you. You might lose 5/10 for losing the back handspring. Do you lose more than 5/10 for doing a bad form? That's going to be a decision for the coach. Maybe early on the season it's okay, because we have a lot of meets in the year, and hey, it's not going to prevent me from like qualifying to regionals. If I do a bad back handspring at states and I fall, that might preclude me from going to regionals. So that's a coach decision. Dana, let's see. Weird new level 4, grouped as by specific age range for competitions. This is actually a good question. In USA Gymnastics, you only have to have a certain minimum age for each level. After that, it is up to the competition to decide. If they have 25 7-year-olds, they have 25 8-year-olds and 2 9-year-olds, they might say the level 7-year-olds are in one age group, the 8 and 9-year-olds are going to be together, and then the 11, 12, 13-year-olds are all going to be together. But every competition is allowed to make up their own age groups based on the number of kids they have in the competition. um, Kelly said, "Can a 3D1 be? You be a 3D1 in one event and a 3D2 in another event?" You cannot. You have to either be a Division 1 or Division 3 at each competition. You can't just kind of go back and forth. Um, like I said, this year is different because a 3D2 can do the bonuses without being deducted in certain situations. In other situations, if they try to do the bonus, they will be deducted because um you're not allowed to do that. So again, that's one of those other exceptions that they have. But a coach can say, "Hey, we're going to go 3D1 this meet, see how you do." If they do pretty bad, the coach is allowed to register for the kids in the next meet as a 3D2. And as they kind of progress throughout the season, they can flip-flop back and forth as much as they want, but not in between events. Oh, one of my Pennsylvania moms. As a judge, would you rather see a level 9 gymnast attempt a harder skill and fail to challenge themselves to perform a simpler skill to get a clean but easier routine? Um, Valerie knows this because in Pennsylvania, I have one coach who will knows the rules very, very well. He works the routines to optimize the start value. Um, that's a hard question because I want to see the hard skills, but I also know the benefit of having a high execution score. Um, I think kind of goes back to the one where I said it's a bad back. If you have a bad back handspring, do you do it? If it's at the beginning of the season, you want to try it, go ahead. But know that I'm going to be deducting as hard as I am judging the first meet of the year as I'm judging at regionals, nationals. So you might be losing, a 9/10 a point, whatever it may be on the skill, but the goal is the next time you see me as at the competition, that's going to be 6/10. It's gonna be 3/10, 2/10, and you're gonna finally, by the time you get to states and regionals, perfect it. So again, coaching, knowing the rules, having judges in the area that you can run the routine by is key. Um, you know, I know there's many platforms out there that you can pay for to have your routine judged by a judge. I'm not a fan of that. I will be 100% transparent. I don't know who this judge is. I don't know their qualifications. I don't know what they're looking for. Um, a lot of gyms, coaches have friends that are judges. They send me a video. Hey, can you tell me what you got for the start value? Can you tell me what this deduction is? I do it free of charge. So coaches know they have judges friends. It's not something you guys gymnastics already expensive enough. Not something that we need to charge you guys for. And plus it makes us better as judges. The more routines we see, the better we are at it. Next question. Can a D1 move up to JE during the season? Yes. Same thing, like I said, for the Division 1 and 2. You kind of can go back and forth. The only problem is not every meet, say, might have a JE session. I know this year they're pushing to have it more regularly, but um, like for example, club track, not every meet's going to have meet kids who can have club track routines. So you might not be able to go to that competition. So it's one of those ones where as long as they offer it in the meet, you can go back and forth as long as it's offered. What is the best way parents can keep up with the rules or learn the skills, better appreciate the sport? The Fig Book. And I will bring down this and Let's see if I can bring up my Fig book. It is free for anybody to do. Let's see if I can get out of here. Probably not, since I am not always the best with Zoom. All right, I'm not going to mess with that. The best is if you search online, FIG men's gymnastics. It is the Fig book. It is basically our Bible. It is free for you to download. I tell all the kids to download it, and that way they can be looking at the routine, at the skills, look at the values, know all the rules, um, and go from there. I can post it in the group on Facebook after this, but I have it. It's pretty boring, to say the least. So if you need to fall asleep to something, it's looking through that. Um, but Jerry Ann, I would also say is the best way you can support your sons is to, oh, thank you, Autumn. That's exactly the one. Um, it is to um, don't worry about the scores. Don't worry about the start values. Let your gymnast, let the coach worry about that. Um, and just tell them to go have fun, do their best, cheer them on, videotape them. That way they can get them on YouTube. And if they want to, their goal is to go to college gymnastics, start putting their stuff out there. Um, but I wouldn't worry about knowing the intricacies of the the skill names or the progressions. It's you know it's that difficult even as a seasoned professional to keep up with every single progression, every skill. But support them, clap, cheer as loud as I want. That's the one thing I hate is when you have a big gym of level 10s and you can hear a pin drop. That's when you want the parents to be the loudest. You want the teammates to be the loudest because that shows the support and you know gives them the appreciation for doing the hardest sport in the world. And Dana, yes, there are certain age minimums that you have to have in order to be a certain level. So, like I said earlier, if a level 5, and I don't have it in front of me, is the minimum age is 9 years old or 8 years old, you have to be that age in the championship season before you can compete at that level. So, as soon as they hit the minimum age in the championship year, they're allowed to go to level 6. But that's why there's also no technically age groups, like there were before. It's the age minimums for the level, and then the competitions are allowed to make up their own age groups as the number of kids is necessary. One thing I wanted to let's see real quick. I'll go to this question after I go to the next one. The one thing is, if your son is interested in becoming a judge, the only thing they have to really do is become 16. As soon as they're 16, they can be able to take the test for a judging certification. Um, I can speak on behalf of us in the EGJA. It's we have a course once a year. It's a 1-day course until the Olympics happen, and and the rules change, and then we have a 2-day course, and um, it's $25 to register, become a member of the NGJ, which is National Gymnastics Judges Association. Then it's $25 to take our course to become a member, and then it's an open book test, and that is all you need. Then you have to just get in touch with whoever is your signer for your local area, and they might have they might have your son shadow, a level 3 meet, level 4 meet, and see how they do and see how their scores compare to them. And then when they feel like they are ready to go, you get an assignment, and usually your first assignment is vault. The least stressful um, event to judge, and you kind of get practice, watch YouTube videos. The education aspect is phenomenal, that the NGJ has, and um, it's yeah, it's all you need to do is study the book, and you can start having a nice little paycheck come your way at the end of each weekend. Um, Autumn, let's see your question. Can you please talk about what a complete routine for a level 8 JE with the element groups and skills? What is required? That is a loaded question. Um, is there a certain event that you are talking about in particular?
No, not necessarily. I just figured out what an element group was like 6 months ago. So I don't even know like how many do they have to do of each, and then like
So,
how many A's or B's or
um, so it's a level 8, is they're basically have as long as they go, and I think I got out of that PowerPoint. So a level 8, they're going to they're going to have their JE routines, but they're going to also just have to hit their routines based on their element groups. So whether it's like, for example, floor is a non-acrobatic, so whether it's a press, you know, there's there's an A press, there's a B press, C press. They can do one of those three. They have to go forwards. They can do any element group, like I said, any skill, whether it's an A, B, C, D. For a forward element group, they do backward element group, and then their dismount. So again, as parents, I don't think it's necessary to worry about the element groups per se. It is very challenging, even being a seasoned professional. Like I said, let the coaches worry about the element groups. Like I said, just cheer them on. If you want to watch the videos with your son and see if they can help explain them to you and kind of learn the process, that's an even way good, an even better way to kind of build that relationship with them and see what they're actually doing in the gym. You mentioned some skills can be done. Division two, where they're found. They're found in the junior division or the junior manual. And let me see if I can. I'm gonna have to stop sharing my screen for a second. I'm going to then bring it up.
While you're looking that up, Jeffrey, can I just real quickly give her a brief about the level 8?
Yeah, sure.
Right. So basically, to just briefly answer your question, level 8 JE. So there's the element group designation. They get it up to 2 points for element group. So they get there's 4 element groups that they're trying to fulfill. They can have any value of skill, A, B, C, D, doesn't matter, for level 8 to fulfill that element group. So as long as they do one skill from each of those 4 element groups, they get 2.0 in their element group designation. Well, sorry, let me backtrack. They get 1.5 in the first 3 element groups. Then the last element group, the dismount element group, they actually get the value of that skill. So if they do an A skill, they get 1/10, a B skill 2/10, C skill 3/10. That's the rule currently. It might change, but that's how it is. So element groups are capped at 2.0. That's the most they can get as a level 8 in element group designation. And then the other skills, it doesn't matter. There's not a minimum number of A's, B's, C's, D's, E's. It's just whatever they do, they get the value of those 8 skills added together, and that becomes your D score. So if they get 2.0 in element groups, and then they have 8/10 in difficulty score, then their start value or difficulty score would be a 12.8. So hope that answers the question a little bit better.
And I have my screen here, the show for the asterisks. So you can see under the bonus number one, for this is for level 3. They're supposed to do a press headstand, hold it briefly, and if they want, they can try the straddle uh, jump press to earn. If you were Division 1, you could do that for a bonus. If Division 2 were to do that, they would not be deducted for doing it, but they would get deducted any execution that, bent arms, bent knees, toes not pointed, falling. You could all get those deductions. But you'll see that in the bonuses, there's a asterisk right next to the bonus. Let me see here. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes the kids, we have as a former gymnast, I know we can have our own way of talking, and knowing certain skills makes it even more tough for a parent to know what's going on. Let's see real fast. Let's see. I talked about judging. I will say this. I understand parents, no parent should ever, and hopefully your coaches say this, if you have a discrepancy with a judge and a score, um there's a chain of command, and I've never seen it. I've only heard stories of it, where a parent got into an altercation with a judge in the parking lot afterwards. Um, it's not that big of a deal. It's a sport. We're supposed to have fun, but you know, a coach should be the only person coming up to a judge and asking questions. Um, the only question a judge has to answer to a coach is, what is the start value? A coach cannot question my deductions. A coach can't, um, you know, question anything else except come up to me and ask me what his start value is. And you're not permitted to do a video review. I've had many parents come up to me and say, "Oh, can you look at this video and judge it again?" That is not allowed except at a championship level. So at states, regionals, nationals, a coach is allowed to put in a video inquiry. Um, but at a invitational, if a coach comes up to me with a video, I'm going to tell them absolutely not, go away. Um, Jerry Ann, that's basically what I was saying. Like, a coach can question the start value. They can't question a deduction. So if say I messed up and it was level 9 and I thought he was level 10 and I gave him partial credit for an element group and it ended up being a full element group credit, those start values can change by, you know, 6/10. But you're not allowed to say, "Oh, you took a large deduction. I think it's a medium deduction. I want those tenths back." That's not possible. Can JE and non-JE kids make a team at a competition? Absolutely. I have kids that are JE, level 10 JEs can still compete with their level 10s. Their only difference is that they're going to be doing their JE routines later on, but their scores can definitely count for a team competition, unless there's a meet that says you can't. But I've never seen that. And in Pennsylvania, my JE kids' scores go in for the non-JE, this just the JD kids for their team scores. And I'm just going to do one last shameless plug for myself, because we as a state, let me just share my screen again. I apologize. Luckily for me, being in medicine, I'd never had to worry about Zoom because I saw all my patients still in the office. My shameless plug is I'm always looking for sponsorships to help offset the costs for events. My goal is to continue to give back to the gymnast, their coaches, their families, their gyms. Um, we are a 501(c)(3) nonprofit, so any sponsorships, donations are tax deductible, whether it's friends, family, small business owners, philanthropists that have more money to have than they need, state and governments, lottery winners, doctors, lawyers, whoever. Feel free to email me at pamanagemnasticschairman@gmail.com if you're interested. Um, this year I was lucky enough to bring in Ian Gunther to our state clinic, and the kids had such an incredible time with him. Um, and he doesn't come cheap. He has millions of followers on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, but he was there with the kids. He was not just with the older guys, he was there with the little guys, the level threes, playing around, asking him what his favorite topping was on pizza and what his favorite ice cream color was or flavor was. And then he was having um very like in-depth conversations about his recruiting process and everything like that, with our level, nines and tens, and what it was like going to Stanford and being on national teams and stuff like that. So anything I can do to help offset the costs for the state. Um, yes, we had we had a long conversation in the car up to IGC with him, and I heard he's great with stock and his gym apparel and everything he's doing for men's gymnastics is amazing. Prehab. Oh, this is a great question, and it's something I don't get to do very much of because I am in the clinic with my doctor all the time. But um, we actually have a sports. I'm going to give my old teammate a shameless plug. He is a physical therapist. He was a gymnast himself. His name is Charles Baldy with the Baldy Movement Group. He does physical therapy, prehab, specifically with gymnasts and athletes, and not doesn't deal with insurances. So he'll basically work with you and make a package. But there's good old shoulder prehab, ankle prehab, rehab. Good active recoveries. But I'm going to type his name in here. It's called the Baldy Movement Group. Look him up online. Tell him that Jeff sent you over that way, and you see if you get an evaluation. He does it online. You don't have to be in Pennsylvania. He's worked with people across the country, across, I think even in other countries that were gymnasts or athletes. He's worked with them to get them back from injuries. So he's fantastic. Said he's a former gymnast. He was from Virginia, went to Temple, competed for Temple, and now he has got his own practice for physical therapy. Jerry, I think anything else before we finish up? Because I have to get to work tomorrow as well, and we're approaching 10 o'clock here on the East Coast.
Yeah, no, unless anyone has one last question, we are coming back up on the top of the hour again. And there's one there. Thank you. It's a thank you. And that's what I really want to say to you. Thank you, Jeffrey, for volunteering to do this, for coming up with the idea to do this. Jarrett, thank you for hopping on the call and answering questions. Do you have anything last to add, Jarrett?
Just to echo what Jeffrey said about for parents, your biggest job is to be the cheerleader. Rely on your coaches. I'm not saying, and coaches are humans. They're gonna make mistakes. They're gonna forget things. They're gonna screw up. They're gonna say things to your kids that probably you wouldn't say to them. But so approach your coaches with grace, but understand, as Jeffrey said, there is kind of a pecking order at the competition. Everything should be go through the coaches. Don't go through the judges. Don't attack the judges in the parking lot. I've also, there was one instance with the taser, that the judge might or might not have deserved it. I'm not going to weigh in on that, but um, so, but yeah, you guys are there to be their cheerleaders, and obviously you want to educate yourself. And I tell my staff at my gym, the two most sensitive areas you deal with people are their kids and their money, and we deal with both because as a gym owner, you pay us you're paying a lot of money for a sport that we're dealing with your kids, judges, coaches, administrators, everything. So we appreciate you guys because we wouldn't be able to judge, we wouldn't be able to run the sport and do it without kids wanting to do it. So I definitely appreciate what you guys have to say. And then the last thing is just, gymnastics is a marathon, not a sprint. I know a lot of the parents on here, have little guys, level threes, level fours, first year athletes. We don't know how good those kids are going to be. No one would have thought when Steven Netarosik was 8 years old that he was going to be the darling of the country at the Olympic Games. He wasn't that athlete at 8 years old. He wasn't. And he stuck to it and he came through and had a great career, great collegiate career, stuck with it. And it was awesome he was awesome for that. And just, a great guy. So just understand that you don't want to push these athletes too early. You want to trust your coaches, trust your club owners, the administrators in your state, and just let the boys have fun. Because it only gets harder the longer they do it. And if they don't love it at the beginning, then it's really hard for them to stick to it. And I've seen, and I'm sure Jeffrey's seen, too many athletes we lose along the way. They either get burnt out or they get injured or something, who just didn't stick to it at the end. So I just encourage you guys to just remind your athletes of that. It's not about this season. It's not about that practice, that particular meet. That it is a long process, and to trust the process and trust, going through it. So again, thank you guys. Thank you for putting this on. Jeffrey and Jerry Ann's great to get the parents in the community because, like I said, without you guys, we don't have jobs. So we appreciate it.
I will leave it with this last two thoughts. One is, speaking like Jarrett said, I had a gymnast in Pennsylvania. He wasn't the best, wasn't the worst. He got to high school, wanted to have friends outside the gym, ended up quitting his sophomore year. His coach, one of my best friends, got him to stay in the gym, just hanging out with his teammates, still have him do some conditioning. Um, got him to come back after he put on like 30 pounds of muscle and fat, whatever it was, because he was lifting at school and said, "Hey, get back in the gym." And gets back in the gym, realized he missed it, works with his coach, got back down to his gymnastics weight, told me he would be in the locker room crying because his shins hurt so bad because he took so much time off and he couldn't get through a floor routine. Fast forward a year later to April at Easterns, you have a Eastern high bar champion. He is now a freshman at Springfield College competing, and his goal wasn't to make the Olympics. It wasn't to make national team. It was to get back and compete in college. And I tell all my parents that their main net, you're in the 500 kids there's a 99.99% chance none of your kids are going to the Olympics. That's okay. As long as they have fun and do their best, that is the only thing that matters. And that's what Jarrett says. As long as they have fun, do their best, that's all we need to do. So I appreciate your time. And if you have any questions, feel free. You shoot me an email or a message on Facebook. I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you so much, Jeffrey.
Of course. Thank you.